In a small, unassuming hospital on the outskirts of town, the night shift had just begun. The halls were eerily quiet, the only sounds being the distant beeping of monitors and the occasional creak of a nurse's worn shoes on the linoleum floor. The night nurse, a woman by the name of Sarah, made her rounds, tending to the patients with a practiced efficiency. She hummed softly to herself, her movements fluid and graceful as she checked vitals and rearranged pillows. Little did she know that tonight, everything was about to change. Sarah had always been fascinated by the occult. In her spare time, she would dabble in tarot cards and study ancient grimoires. She believed that there was a power out there, a force that could be harnessed to unlock the secrets of the universe. Tonight, as she sat at her desk, poring over an ancient tome, she unwittingly opened a doorway to something dark and malevolent. Shadows danced across the walls, shifting and twisting like living things. The air grew thick with an unnatural chill, and Sarah could swear that she heard whispers in the wind, whispers that called her name. As she continued to study the book, she felt a strange energy coursing through her veins, filling her with a terrible hunger. The patients in her ward began to stir, their faces contorted in pain and fear. Sarah's eyes gleamed with a malevolent light as she stood up, her hands trembling with power. She started with the elderly man in room 3. His heart raced as he lay in bed, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Sarah approached him slowly, her movements predatory. She leaned over him, her breath warm against his neck, and then she struck. Her fingers sank into his chest, tearing through flesh and bone like it was nothing more than tissue paper. Blood gushed from the wound, painting the bed and the walls with a grotesque crimson hue. The old man's eyes went wide with shock and horror before he finally succumbed to his injuries. Sarah moved on to room 5, where a young woman lay curled up in a fetal position, sobbing into her pillow. Her abdomen was distended, her skin pale and clammy. Sarah knelt beside the bed, her fingers tracing the woman's trembling form. With a sickening crack, she forced her hand through the woman's abdomen, tearing her insides apart like a wet, bloody rag. The woman's screams echoed off the walls, filling the hospital with the agony of her death throes. As she lay there, twitching and gurgling, Sarah smiled, her lips curling into a terrible grin. The remaining patients didn't stand a chance. One by one, Sarah claimed them, her fingers digging deeper and deeper into their fragile bodies, her touch a living nightmare come true. Blood sprayed across the walls, painting gruesome masterpieces of suffering and despair. The hospital was awash with the stench of death and decay, and still Sarah continued her gory work. Her eyes gleamed with a manic energy, her movements becoming faster and more frenzied as she basked in the power that coursed through her veins. Finally, as the last patient lay dead at her feet, Sarah paused. She looked around her, surveying the carnage she had wrought. The once peaceful hospital was now a chamber of horrors, a testament to the depths of her depravity. With a satisfied sigh, she turned and walked out of the room, leaving the bodies of her victims to rot in the hall. Her escape was swift and silent, and before anyone could realize what had happened, she was gone, vanished into the night like a whisper on the wind. Outside the hospital, Sarah breathed a sigh of relief. The weight of the grimoire felt lighter now that it had been put to use. She knew that she could not keep this power to herself. It was too great, too dangerous. No, she decided, she must find others like her, others who would understand the true potential of what she had unleashed.